Welcome to Addicted to Busy, the podcast specifically for overachieving property managers who are dying for a little more work-life balance in their lives. Each week, we dismantle all the BS that holds us back. You'll learn how to nix those tricky, self-sabotaging habits so that you have the time, energy, and motivation to create what you really want in life. If you're looking to shift from overcommitted to overjoyed, this is the podcast for you. Let's do this. Now, your host, Anna Havliana.
Welcome back to Addicted to Busy. My name is Anna Havliana, and I'm your host. Hello again. I have been in the thick of revamping part of my course, and this revamp is going to focus specifically on time blocking. I love presenting at conferences about how multitasking is actually a myth. Most of you listening are property managers. And the role of the property manager is absolutely no walk in the park. You have to be a jack of all trades. You're constantly juggling responsibilities from rent collection, maintenance processing, to marketing and accounting. In many cases, you have to be a great negotiator, whether that's working with residents, tenants, vendors, contractors. And it gets even more challenging when there are sudden emergencies or residents who just aren't ever happy. There's a lot of pressure to deliver high quality customer service while also trying to keep track of various deadlines and random tasks that need to be done. So it makes sense why many of us once believed that we need to be able to multitask in order to be successful. But research shows time and time again that multitasking is actually ineffective. Many of my presentations focus on why multitasking is counterproductive. But the truth is that if you want to stop multitasking, you're going to have to address some long-standing habits. Now, we all have bad habits, things like leaving the lights on, biting our nails, or eating too much. But we also have bad habits as it pertains to the office. Things like distracting ourselves with emails when we should be working on a report, or procrastinating by knocking off some of the easier items on our to-do list. This new revamp of the course is going to address how to stop multitasking so that you can get more efficient and get more done on less time. So this is where I think we waste a lot of our energy. Oftentimes, we're so focused on trying to figure out how to simply get through our to-do list that we aren't stopping to consider if the way that we're approaching our work is actually productive. Okay, hear me out. Just because you feel productive doesn't mean that you are. I would even invite you to question, what does it actually mean to feel productive? I was once working with a client who, by all means, was a high achiever. She got into the office early, she logged on late, she did all of the things. And yet, she frequently told me that she didn't feel like she was able to keep up with everything. Now, over the months of working together, we focused on being present, fully present in the current moment. And what that looked like for her was actually giving herself a true break from her work. When she wasn't at work, the phone was put away, and we encouraged her to focus 100% on whatever was in front of her. Now, I loved listening to her come back to her sessions and talk about how this was working for her. She would talk about what it was like to sit on the sidelines of one of her children's soccer games and actually watch her kid play, or actually fully engage in conversations with other parents. Previously, she would just drop her kid off and sit in the car on her laptop. Or maybe she'd sit on the sidelines, but she would definitely be checking in on her phone. Over time, she was starting to reap the benefits of being in one place at a time. As time went on, she gained more confidence that she could log off of work at a decent hour. And she started feeling less guilty if she didn't open up her laptop later in the evening. So even though she was creating better work-life balance, what she kept coming back to was this idea that she wasn't working hard anymore. So I asked her. If any of her colleagues or supervisors had said that she was slacking. She said no. I asked her if any of her clients seemed irritated with her or were waiting on deliverables. She said no. I asked if her subordinates were frustrated with her or telling her that she was holding them up. She said no. I asked her if her job was easier in any way, and she also said no. So then I asked her to give me her reasoning behind why she believes she was not, quote unquote, working hard anymore. And what she had to say was pretty interesting. She said that she didn't feel exhausted. But that right there was the problem. She had equated working hard with feeling exhausted. For some reason, the lack of exhaustion in her life was telling her that she was no longer an overachiever, which just wasn't true. You can work hard without overexerting yourself. What she couldn't see was that by taking true breaks from work and being fully present in her personal life, she was giving herself moments of reprieve that allowed her to return back to her work with more energy. Now, the opposite can also be true. I love using this example when I speak at conferences. So some of you might have already heard this before, but I want to play out two different scenarios for you. And with each scenario, all I want you to consider is, how do you think you would feel? Okay, so it's Monday morning and you've started your work week. You look at your to-do list and you have 5 difficult, high priority tasks and then 20 smaller, more simple tasks. So scenario number 1, it's Friday, 5 p.m. You've worked 8 hours a day for the last 5 days. You look at your to-do list and you have accomplished all 20 of your smaller, simple tasks, but only 2 of your high priority tasks. Now just stop here and consider, how do you think you would feel? All right, let's wipe the slate clean here and let's go to scenario number 2. It's also Friday, 5 p.m. You've worked 8 hours a day for the last 5 days, but the difference is that you look at your to-do list and all 5 of your high priority items are done, but only 3 of the smaller 20 tasks are completed. And again, consider, how do you think you would feel? Now, this is all hypothetical. There is no right or wrong answer to this question, but I have given this example all around the country, and in most cases, people prefer scenario number 2, where all 5 high priorities are completed and there are plenty of things left undone. It is so much easier to fully enjoy your weekend knowing that you got after the most difficult tasks and/or the tasks that produce the highest value for the property or for your team. So this is where the opposite can also be true. If you're completing all 20 of your non-essential tasks, but only 2 of your 5 high priority tasks, and if you're measuring how hard you're working by your level of exhaustion, you might be telling yourself that you're productive when you're really not. In this scenario where you're focusing on the lower hanging fruit on your to-do list, you're not productive. You're actually kind of sloppy with your priorities. And I don't mean to be harsh, but it's the truth. This is the reason why you could be working day, nights, and weekends and still feel like you haven't gotten anything done. Now, I love putting together podcast episodes that are encouraging and uplifting because I know that when I was in the thick of my burnout, that's exactly what I needed. But sometimes what we need most is a good truth bomb or a kick in the butt. Just because you feel productive does not mean that you are. Feeling exhausted all of the time is not an indicator that you're efficient. It could mean that you're doing a lot, but doing a lot does not mean that you are doing what is most important. There's a famous quote, I think Abraham Lincoln said it, that said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe." Much of truly being productive lies in the preparation work. There's a great book on productivity called The Productivity Project by Chris Bailey. And in this book, he explains 2 different aspects of our brains. He describes the difference between our limbic system and our prefrontal cortex. If you've been a listener of this podcast, you might have heard me refer to these as the difference between your toddler mode and your boss brain. The toddler mode in our brain is emotional and is very focused on seeking out immediate pleasure and gratification. Our boss brain, on the other hand, can make decisions based on logic and reasoning. Again, much of truly being productive lies in the preparation work and leaning on our boss brain, also known as our prefrontal cortex. So, I'll give you a couple of examples. Both in the upcoming time blocking course and then in my previous coaching program, what we would do was we would make designated time to decide in advance what the priorities are for the week. A big mistake I see managers make is opening their computers on Monday mornings and simply diving into their email. It is too easy to get lost in other people's requests when you're not stopping to consider your own priorities. So, by taking time to plan out your week before the phone starts ringing and all of the emails start chiming, you essentially give yourself an opportunity to make those decisions from your prefrontal cortex. Once the office is busy and shit starts to hit the fan, chances are you're going to be in a more reactive mode. You're going to be functioning from your toddler mode, also known as your limbic system. When the day gets busy and stressful, you might lose access to your prefrontal cortex and you're going to start relying on the more reactive part of your brain. Keep in mind, this limbic system is where our pleasure centers are located, and its goal is to help us feel good. When this happens, we can very easily lose sight of our high priority tasks and start opting for some of the easier tasks on our to-do list. Again, you may be doing a lot in your day, but that doesn't mean that what you're doing is important. Another example of how great productivity lies in the prep work is actually planning your rest time. We are humans, we are not machines, and we have to have time to rest and restore. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to function at our highest capacity. So, I'm only half joking when I say that some days in property management are like a full contact sport, but I want you to think about it for a minute. Some nights we go into overtime. We hand out penalties by way of late fees and lease violations, and there are plenty of fumbles along the way, as well as hopefully a few Hail Marys to save the day. Now, all joking and puns aside, I do want you to think about what a professional athlete does in order to prepare for a game or an event, right? A great athlete, they pay attention to their diet and their exercise. They make sure that they get adequate rest, they avoid distractions. Many of them stay connected to support systems, and that could be friends, family, trainers, employees. And most athletes focus on cultivating the right mindset. Athletes don't have to earn the right to focus on these things. They choose to focus on these things, which then allows them to perform at their highest level. The same thing goes for you. You don't need to justify taking care of yourself. It is essential. By prioritizing your health and well being, you're going to be better equipped to handle the demands of this field. So, what I want you to think about is to think like an athlete. Take care of your mind, take care of your body, and lean on your support systems. And I think that you'll find that you can tackle even the toughest days with a lot more ease and effectiveness. There is a myth that productivity means doing a lot of things, but true productivity comes down to doing things intentionally and doing them well. All right. If we're judging our productivity based on how much we do instead of how well we do it, we tend to rush, right? And then rushing increases a chance for errors or miscommunications, which then means we have to go back and start fixing things or reiterating what we were trying to say. So, doing all of the things does not always save time. This is why part of preparing to be productive also includes preparing to rest. So, what can we do about all of this? First of all, you can go sign up for a free time blocking course. To get your spot saved, go to annahavliana.com/time blocking. And of course, you can look up time blocking videos on YouTube as well. I am biased since I created the material, but my time blocking course is more specific to the property management industry. So I know that you're going to find a lot of relatable material within it. And even if you don't want to try time blocking, or if you have a time management system that's already working for you, I still invite you to join us because we're not just going to tackle time blocking. We're also going to talk about all of the other skills and traits that you need in order to maximize your time. Okay, we're going to talk about how to handle competing priorities because some days it feels like everyone and their mom wants a piece of you. And we're also going to talk about how to develop our pain tolerance so that we can jump into those difficult tasks right away instead of procrastinating. And when you save time on procrastination, this is going to save you from having to work after hours or in the evenings. We're also going to talk about some deeper topics, such as how to shape your life around your values and how to use your creativity as a means to be more productive. So, I'll give you a little spoiler alert. If you truly want to feel productive, instead of just exhausted from taking care of all of the low hanging fruit on your to do list, the key is going to be boosting up your willingness to take care of the most difficult tasks during your peak working hours. It's amazing how when you knock out the most difficult thing on your to-do list, you feel amazing no matter what else does or doesn't get done the rest of the day. All right. So even if you're not into planning or time blocking, you can start changing the way you approach your day by simply deciding what your top 2 or 3 priorities are going to be. Ask yourself, if nothing else got done for today, except for 3 things, what 3 things on my to-do list, if completed, are going to allow me to feel like I was productive today? Now, the key here is that even just by asking this question, you're using your prefrontal cortex and you're choosing those 3 items intentionally. What's kind of trippy about this is that you might find that when you truly focus on your 3 highest priority tasks, you will feel more productive and accomplished than if you had spent all day knocking out tens of non-essential tasks. So I invite you for this next week, again, to really question, what does it even mean to feel productive? Second of all, setting those priorities before the day starts. All right, my friends, that is all for this week. Like I mentioned, if you want to dive deeper into these topics, go check out the time blocking webinar at annahavliana.com. That's ANNAJAV as in volleyball, ELLANA.com/time blocking. As always, I love you all. Keep going.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Addicted to Busy. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.